I think I figured out a pretty decent measuring stick for whether or not a PLE was, I guess, worth watching, or if it was just good in general. I think the question that you can ask yourself or ask someone, if you skipped that show, if you missed it, if you couldn't watch and you didn't have time to go back and watch it and catch up, are you missing out on any part of a story? Is there anything that you missed that you're going to be out of the loop when Monday Night Raw comes around? Is there going to be anything that when the following week comes around and people are talking about it, or when the stories advance, did you miss a major point in any plot? Unfortunately, the answer for that for Crown Jewel, I believe, is no. I don't think there was anything that happened during the show that was must see. That doesn't mean nothing was enjoyable. That doesn't mean no part of the show was entertaining. There were some pretty good matches mixed in, but as someone who is heavily driven by the narrative, heavily driven by the story being told and all of the kayfabe and all that, I feel like there wasn't a lot for me to chew on. There's not a lot. This is probably the first time I'm making a review video. I wasn't really looking forward to making it because I'm only going to be really talking so much about the matches and whether or not they were a good match. There's not a lot of story development to really discuss. I'm still going to do that. It's not going to be a very long one. I don't want to just sit here and yap for like 30 minutes or whatever. So this is probably going to be a little bit shorter of a video. But generally speaking, I look at Crown Jewel and I go, yeah, I mean, it was a show. I mean, it was fine. It was... I don't regret watching it. There was definitely some points that I enjoyed. And we can start right from the top. The Bloodline kicked things off, which you immediately knew that meant that there probably wasn't going to be The Rock, and that probably wasn't going to be, it probably wasn't going to have a major story moving element if they're going to put it at the beginning of the show. That was just my assumption anyway. Because honestly, it seems like Roman's always main eventing just about whenever he's on the card. The match had its usual slow build. It was waiting for the tag for Roman. It was kind of cool to see Jay basically tell Roman, you're not in charge anymore, because Roman at one point demanded to be tagged in, or demanded. He put his hand out like he was going to be tagged in, and Jay said, no, I'm going to tag Jimmy in. You don't make the calls anymore, which I can respect that. The match itself was pretty solid. It was fairly entertaining, I would say. There wasn't really anything that got me too excited. I think it was mostly like the surprising thing was actually Roman getting pinned clean without there being any sort of major interference. There was a little bit of like people who weren't the legal man getting involved, but at this point, that's just kind of standard tag procedure. I wouldn't take that away from it being like a clean victory. It happens all the time. Even with the ref bump, I don't even think the ref bump was really even part of it. I feel like he got bumped. But even if the ref wasn't down, I don't think they did anything that would have resulted in a DQ. So it was almost unnecessary. It almost made you think that was going to be how it ended, but it just didn't. It's not how it went. So the closest thing to a story moving element that happened was Sammy did come out and he looked like he was going up and teaming up with Roman's side of the Bloodline and going after Solo. And then there's this face-off where, you know, Jay, Jimmy, Sammy, and Roman are all in a corner. Solo's in the middle. And Sami Zayn accidentally haluva kicks Roman Reigns when Solo ducks out of the way. This is a story trope with the WWE, and it's not even just WWE. It's an old sitcom trope of just, for some reason, just to move a plot forward, the characters just lower their ability to understand, you know, just an accident. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like they just don't have the ability to be like, oh, but my bad. Like, obviously someone ducked out of the way and I accidentally hit you. And then everybody's looking at Sammy like, why would you do that, man? Like, bro, you've seen him literally stab Roman in the back with a chair before. Like, this is different. Like, it feels forced, and it feels like it was just a way to get Sammy on the card because it was a Saudi crowd. So that was probably the closest thing where it wasn't directly match related, that there was something that is probably going to be mentioned in the future. But again, I don't think you had to see that to experience that. I don't think that was a moment you could not miss. That could easily be seen in the recap on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, and you completely get the gist of it. There was no moment there where it felt like you needed to be there. On a side note, if you're not already on the Patreon, I highly recommend you check it out at this point. It couldn't be a better time. We're putting out so many watch alongs. Me and my fiance Tally do watch alongs on the Patreon of a bunch of old matches that you guys submit. Any patron can watch all of the watch alongs, but the higher tier patrons actually get to pick every single month which matches we go through and which ones we watch. It's been a great way for her and I to learn wrestling, learn the history of a lot of these wrestlers, and see a bunch of wrestlers that we've never actually heard of before, but now now we understand references that we didn't. Callie and I also have a podcast that goes there every month that you guys get to participate in if you choose to. The Patreon is just an extremely active and close-knit community at this point, and I invite you to check it out. The link will be down below. Let's go back to the video. After that was the match of the night for me. The women's tag match was actually extremely entertaining, and I did not know who Meta-Four was like a few weeks ago. I watch a little bit of NXT. I don't watch it religiously, but they won me over. It's something about the confidence. It's something about the way they carry themselves. It's something about them acting like they belong on the main roster. I don't know if they're going to be sticking around. I don't know if this is going to be a situation where they get sent back down once they're done with this storyline. But if that was the plan, I'm thinking that might not be the plan anymore, because they just seem to fit the bill. It really feels like they belong in this division. It feels like there is a rivalry building up there. I feel like Bianca, and I believe it was, I think her name is Lash. I don't remember. Lash and Jakara, I think, were their names. I don't remember their last names, but I was just trying to learn their names during Crown Jewel. But I know that at least one of them was, you could see they're kind of getting into it with Bianca and Jade, and you could see there's something there. So that could be really cool. I was excited for Io and Kyrie. I thought they had a really good match. I thought Kyrie looked pretty good. There's been some issues lately where I feel like Kyrie has not been the greatest in the ring, and she's had really hot moments, but then had some swings and misses. I thought this was a really good one for her. I think her insane elbow looked as good as ever. Io looked fantastic. And I made some comments during my predictions video about not really being behind Chelsea Green and Piper Niven as a tag team. I like them both individually. I just wasn't sure how I was feeling with them as a tag team, but I think I was proven wrong with this one. I think I was a little bit off the mark when I was saying that, because seeing them in this match as more of like the comedy duo who can also perform, that actually hit for me. I really like that. Piper accidentally squashing Chelsea because of a miscommunication. I thought that was really funny. Chelsea also made me laugh when she was like gonna do a moonsault off the middle rope. She's like, no. She goes to the bottom rope. No. She was going to do it from the apron. She's like, no. And then she turns around and just jumps forward. I was, really leaning into the whole being afraid of heights thing, which is hilarious given her spot at Money in the Bank and her hitting one of the spots of the night. So that's pretty cool. But overall, the match was really entertaining for me. I feel like everybody just worked well together. I feel like anybody who's been harping on Jade not doing enough, I think this was a match where she was standing out on her own. I don't think it was dependent on anybody else. I think she looked really good in this match. Bianca, always a superstar, looked fantastic. I was rooting for Damage Control to win this, but I'm not surprised, especially given this. I actually saw one of you guys comment recently on one of my posts calling this show a bit of a holding pattern, and I like that phrasing. I feel like that makes sense for me. And now that I kind of see a little bit better of what Crown Jewel is to be expected to be, I should have known that it was probably going to be a retain here. I was rooting for Io and Kyrie, though. After that was a match I was really excited for. We had Bronson and Seth. I was really looking forward to this. I hyped it up pretty well over on the predictions video, and Bronson really showed out. I was worried a little bit that this was going to be a situation where maybe it just doesn't hit, but I don't really know. I think I was just nervous for him. I didn't really have any valid reasons to be like nervous, I guess, that he wouldn't perform, but I really wanted him to show out because, it's a live performance. So you want someone to be put in that situation, and when you're rooting for them to succeed, you want him to show out, and that's exactly what he did. The little bit of extra that I liked about the match was that Bronson didn't just lose and be made to look like he put it all out there and lost. Seth was actually showing to be the veteran in this situation. Seth was avoiding the finishers from Bronson all throughout the match. He was trying to hit it pretty early, and even Seth, I'm pretty sure Seth hit the stomp pretty early in this match. Bronson was shown to look strong by being able to get out of that, not actually lose to that right away. It took being stomped into a staircase and then stomped again inside the ring for him to finally be defeated. But I think as much as I don't feel like you need to protect finishers, I can appreciate that the tsunami didn't actually get hit throughout the match, and you can kind of feel like that had he hit that move, maybe we would have been looking at a different scenario and maybe we would have gotten a different result. So I'm hoping this leads to more matches between the two of them. I think this feud could really get some fire if they keep this going on the weekly show. And I don't know if that means they're going to do something at Survivor Series. I wouldn't be against this getting paid off at like a really good Raw show. I would not be against that at all. We've seen some fantastic feuds get built and paid off on the weekly shows in recent months. So I wouldn't be against that at all if they don't think that it's going to have a full spot for Survivor Series. But I'll tell you what, if this feud continues throughout the month and they get to go again at Survivor Series, I think that's all the information you need to know that Triple H sees Bronson Reed as someone that he can absolutely put in the main event scene. As a side note, not that he needs it, but I am actually really proud of Bronson Reed. I feel like he is someone who I have seen grow in the last 2 years since we've been watching, and actually see him just completely force his way out of the mid card into a spot where he just can't be denied as a main eventer. This next one was a bit of a bummer. I don't know if it was my higher expectations or maybe it's because I really wanted to cash in, but the Liv Morgan and Nia Jax match just didn't hit for me. And then when I looked it up because I was curious, I felt looking back, because I'm actually recording this several hours after the show had ended. I wanted to kind of digest on it a little bit instead of just giving the immediate takes. And I'm glad I did, by the way. I feel like I was feeling a lot more positive as the show was happening, just because the show makes me feel good and I enjoy watching it. But now that I've had time to look back, that match just felt like it flew by for me. I felt like I didn't remember a lot of details of the match, and so I went back and I watched the highlights, and I didn't even see a lot of highlights of it. And I look it up, like apparently that match just went between like 5 and 10 minutes. Like it wasn't that long of a match, which is strange because there was a lot of like interference going on. There was a lot going on, so maybe it just felt like with the faux cash in, Tiffy returning, the interference with Dom, Raquel, the case getting pushed around, all of that happening in a less than 10-minute match, maybe it kind of felt a little bit rushed. I don't know. It just didn't quite hit for me. I kind of had high expectations with this. I felt like Liv was going to get a chance to shine here. Just being able to use that might not be stronger than you, but I'm smarter than you kind of tactic in the match, which it kind of showed, but it just felt like an all right match. I didn't really see too much of a standout from either one of them. And as much as I did want Tiffy to cash in, again, I can understand that this match, now that I've seen the entire thing, that this was just going to be nothing major is going to change here. But the thing that bothered me the most is not that there wasn't a cash in. It's not that the match was short or the match was kind of or that it felt rushed and had too much going on. I just feel like Tiffy as a character progressed on SmackDown and then immediately regressed on Crown Jewel. It was strange because on SmackDown, she comes out there and she acts like, you know what, you two have been really pissing me off. She's standing up for herself. She's making it clear neither one of you are safe. I could cash in on either one of you. What happened? What happened to that Tiffy? Crown Jewel comes around. She comes out there. I'm feeling like, oh, here we go. This is the Tiffy that doesn't take shit from anyone. And then she's apologizing. She's like, I'm sorry. No, I wasn't going to do it. And she does that to both her and to Liv, or maybe she to like Raquel, I can't remember, but her backing down like that, just, I felt like we progressed your character and then brought her right back, which I didn't really care for that. I hope that doesn't become the norm for her. I just feel like her character development just deserves a little bit more. I feel like it was looking good on SmackDown, and then it's like it was totally forgotten at the PLE. Then Kevin Owens and Randy Orton just decided they weren't going to have a match today, and they were just going to duke it out all around the arena. Now, this was pretty fun. I actually kind of like it, especially if they were trying to keep the show. We had 7 matches, and if they were trying to keep the show still a normal length, you figured that 1 or 2 of these matches were going to be a bit shorter, which, as we just talked about, looks like was the case for Liv and Nia. But it looks like this one was just never going to fully happen. They got their entrances, so I'm glad they got a full Randy entrance. But we just got a bunch of chaos, and I'm not even really against it. I feel like this is a setup for either Survivor Series or just some weeks leading up. I think it's a nice setup for some sort of a match that's going to be, you know, no DQ, but maybe even more than that. Street fight, I don't know if they're going to call it that kind of thing, but they may. Who knows? They might put him in a steel cage or something like that. I don't know. This feels like a situation where these two are going to need more than just a regular singles match. Eddie, the referee, I believe it was, took a mean stunner. Great sell rolling out of the ring. Adam Pearce caught an RKO, so that was pretty cool to see him going around doing that. I think Kevin did I think he did a regular splash off of like the railing in the crowd. So that was pretty cool to see them going around doing that. There's not a lot to analyze here or really give too much thoughts on. I guess I still don't think this like fully progresses the story. I feel like you could have missed that. I mean, if I wouldn't say you should miss it, but I feel like if you missed the show, you would very easily be able to understand from the promos that were happening during the week that this is where we were heading. So if anything, all this did was really just solidify this like hatred for each other that's building up. So Again, it doesn't meet the requirement of you had to see this to understand where we're going. This just solidified what we already knew. I recognize this is like the least positive review I've given for a PLE so far, so bear with me. I expect it to be right back on track, maybe with Survivor Series, but this is just how I feel. It doesn't get much better because we get to the triple threat where it's LA Knight, Andrade, and Carmelo Hayes. Now, I want to give credit where credit's due. The match itself was pretty fantastic. I think it was great for, as far as triple threats go, this was probably one of the better ones that I have seen. It was really cool seeing all the moves work together, seeing a lot of moves involving all three of them instead of it just being somebody taking a break and then two are going at it for a while. But I just couldn't get past the fact, and this is probably a me problem, maybe some of you can relate, maybe some of you might agree. I just couldn't get past the fact that we didn't get Game 7, and this didn't feel like a Game 7 replacement for me. It felt like all those months of us getting Andrade and Carmelo Hayes building up all the way to a Game 7, putting on 6 really fantastic matches, to have it be taken away by LA Knight being the ref and making the match about him and just making it so it didn't really happen. And then instead we get a match where it's a triple threat where LA Knight gets the win in Game 7, essentially. So it hurts me a little bit to see Andrade and Carmelo get an ending that involves neither one of them actually getting the win. Who knows? Maybe they'll go back and they'll finish off an actual Game 7 with an actual ref, but it does seem like we might be going a different path right now. And it might just be a personal thing, which I guess that's what this is, right? This is an opinion. So my personal thing is I still feel robbed of Game 7. So as much as that was a great match, I didn't think it needed to be in place of Game 7. I think we could have had a fantastic two-person, even if it was a no contest ending or something between Andrade and Carmelo, even if it ended with neither one of them actually winning, at least it would have been on their terms. At least it would have been on their own accord, and they could have either both they could have beaten each other down so much they both got counted out, or neither could get up in the ring to the point where they were tied and LA Knight says, or whoever says, all right, well, they're both going to get a shot at the US title. This just felt like LA Knight said, no Game 7, I'm going to beat you both over here, and I did, and now neither one of you get to look, I don't want to say they didn't look good, because they did look good in the match, but neither one of you get to say you won the Game 7, which I think would have been pretty cool. But I did like the match. The match was pretty dope. It ending with almost like a double BFT was pretty dope as well. Cody Rhodes and Gunther did everything I thought they would. It was actually like a lot of reversals, really good wrestling from both of them. I could talk about a decent chunk of the match, but I just feel like I'm going to get repetitive. So I will just say that I got exactly what I was hoping for. I saw the best of Cody Rhodes and the best of Gunther in that match, and they both looked fantastic. They both looked like they got to look strong with their moves, using rope breaks to get out instead of just easily kicking out. They did both get some finishers off, but both of them were kicking out of those finishers. And I just really love how much the sleeper hold has been built up with Gunther. He's been winning matches. He beat Sammy with it, and he beat I think he beat, isn't that how he beat Damian at SummerSlam? I could be wrong, but he beat Randy Orton too. So he's looking so good with this sleeper hold that it did feel like if he got the sleeper hold in deep and Cody couldn't get to a rope, it looked like it was going to be over. And the finish was so good. I saw some people were not a huge fan of it. I can't relate, dude. That looked so good, having Cody going for his cutter. And he jumps right into that sleeper where you're like, oh man, you're going from one like signature move over to jumping right into Gunther's finish, and then using that to actually get the pin where he like flips and does like a backwards somersault or whatever, and puts Gunther's shoulders down for the win. I loved that sequence. It felt really creative, and I think it was a really cool way to make it feel like both of them could have won at any moment. But just one of them was just a little bit better that day. I also really liked the end where Gunther wanted to shake hands. He was down to shake hands, but he was pissed. He felt like he had truly been beaten. He didn't like it. There was nothing dirty that had happened. He didn't have any reason to attack. He was honorable in that way, which I feel like does make sense with his character. Cody hadn't done anything in the match that would warrant an attack. And I am glad that Ludwig didn't get involved here. I'm glad there wasn't Imperium interference here. I'm glad these two got to duke it out. My prediction was wrong on this one. I really was thinking that they were going to take an easy way out and have there be some sort of interference. You could have even gone the route of Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens could have came out here and attacked Cody to make Gunther win, and they didn't take that. So props to the WWE for proving me, or I wouldn't say proving me wrong, I guess, because I don't think that's what I predicted. I can't remember anymore. I've changed my mind so much in the last couple days, but I was definitely worried that they would take that route. So thank you for proving my worry to be unwarranted. It was a really good match, and I really did enjoy that one. While it was a good match, though, could you have skipped it and not felt out of the loop on any of the story going on? Yeah, probably you would have missed out on a great match, and you would have missed out on a lot of really entertaining matches if you skipped the show. But would you be out of the loop on the story? I just don't think that's the case. And I feel like for me as a viewer, I'm really invested in the storylines, and I feel like most of the PLEs that I watch, something happens to advance the story. That's the thing I just want to talk about. That's the thing that I'm excited. It makes me excited for Raw. I just don't think I got that from this show, but I am looking forward to at this point, I'm just wanting to watch because I'm looking forward to the build to Survivor Series and seeing the War Games build up. I'm realizing I didn't even really mention the Crown Jewel titles. I don't care about them. It doesn't really mean anything to me. I did see that both Liv and Cody, the rings that they had won, just didn't fit them. I'm surprised Cody was able to get the ring off his finger the way he had to like jam it on there, but good for both of them for being the first Crown Jewel champions. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Drop it in the comments. Honest opinions only. I also invite you to join the Discord to talk wrestling 24/7. You could be a fan of any promotion, not just WWE. We talk AEW, TNA, or whatever's going on in wrestling. Feel free to jump over there. I also play random games on Twitch. If you just want to come chat and just, even if I'm playing something random, you just want to come talk wrestling. There's not a ton of people over on the Twitch, so it's a little bit more personal where you can just hang around, chat a little bit, pop in. But thank you guys for watching. Thanks to the patrons that are flying up the screen right now. I will see you guys in the next video.